and welcome to Archive Dive. I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Each month, we dip into files on historic events, people, and places in Superior and Douglas County with local historians. Today, we're diving into 105 years of journalism on the University of Wisconsin Superior campus. The first edition of the school's student newspaper, the Peptimist, was published January 15, 1920. The price per copy? 3 cents. The semi-monthly paper was devoted to the activities and opinions of the students at what was then the Superior Normal School. Fast forward to 2025. The name of both the school and the newspaper, now the Promethean, have changed, but the award-winning publication has stayed true to its mission. Helping us dive into the story today are Tom Hansen, senior lecturer in the Communication, Media, and Theater Department, also advisor to the Promethean and KUWS, Drew Kerner, morning technical director at WDIO and former editor-in-chief of the Promethean, and Jeffrey McClure, multimedia journalist with Northern News Now and the former sports editor of the Promethean. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Maria.
Hey.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. So, Tom, how long have you been the advisor for the Promethean?
2016 was my first advising experience with the newspaper.
Wasn't that the year it changed its name back to the Promethean?
It was just before that. So,
Okay.
yeah, it was just before that. Yeah, there's a long, as you know, 105 years, there's a long history and name changes and things like that. And Drew, I think, actually did, over the course of the different names and timelines and things like that, or some of our archivists that we had at the paper, the different logos and names. But yeah, it was a magazine at one point, but it's fantastic that the students have had 105 years of telling their stories. I think it's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now, Drew, when were you at UWS and when were you with the Promethean?
Yeah, so I've been with the Promethean my entire time I was in college. I started in fall of 2021, and I stuck with it all the way up until graduation. I took the last semester off because all I needed was just to complete my capstone. So I just kind of let the newspaper take its own form after me because, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do if I just left them. Yeah.
He was our consultant. So if we ever had a
Consultant that last
question,
semester.
and we had the staff had several questions, so he was our consultant since he was still a student.
A lot of
Right.
long phone calls while I was at work or while I was working on my finals projects. But most of the time I would just stop in because I was already on campus doing something else.
Right. Jeffrey, when were you at the Promethean?
Yeah, so after I graduated high school, I originally went to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, plans to be an English teacher, and then just kind of fell through with that, decided I needed to return home, and obviously went to UWS. And in that first semester there, that would have been January 2020, right before COVID hit, obviously, but I was just studying in Swenson Hall one day, and I happened to find a Promethean, read through it. On the back of it, it said, "You like sports, come write for us." And I immediately emailed the guy, Michael Michelezzi was the editor at the time. And from then on, I kind of did exactly what they told me. Once COVID hit, I took some time off from the Promethean just because, got to focus on school and wasn't easy during that time. So once we came back to campus, got back with the Promethean, then I like to tell people I did exactly what Tom Hansen told me for 3.5 years. If there was a cliff he told me to jump off, I just hope there was water at the bottom of it.
Oh my goodness. So did you have a paper during COVID?
We didn't have an actual paper because obviously there's nobody at school, right? So there's nobody at school, and plus they, handling, if you remember, handling different things. The short answer is we didn't print, but we still were able to do it through Zoom online. So we still had online editions of the Promethean during that time. And again, Michael Michelezzi was really instrumental at that point. He went into teaching. He was one of the staff members that wasn't in journalism. He was a writing major, I believe, or at writing education type major. And he did a fabulous job during that time of running not only the meetings, but the content. And we really didn't miss a beat. If anything, we actually were able to do more because people, I'm not going to say weren't attending classes, but I mean, they had more flexibility in their schedule. That's what I was trying to get at. Obviously, getting pictures or photos or things like that was a little bit more challenging for the stories. But Michael and the staff at that time, they were still able to carry on with social media, website, those types of things. So all the credit to Michael and his staff. And there wasn't a large staff at that point. It was after COVID that we really started to pick up after that.
Okay. So it's not just a newspaper anymore, right? Can you walk me through how long has it been online? How long has there been social media? And now I understand that there's also videos that are being produced, right?
If I remember correctly from my time managing the website, I think our articles go back to like the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, right before COVID hit. But Jeffrey and I kind of worked together here and there to get the TV up around this spring 22?
Yeah, I want to
23?
say it was then. It was a big thing for Tom kind of as we moved on, because I kind of see it in like an eras aspect of like there was Michael Michelezzi and Dean Germano of when I started, and then they obviously graduated, and as you graduate, you got to leave. So then Drew and I kind of came in at that same time, and then Isaiah Wida as well, the semester after, I think. And it was a big thing for Tom at that time, I feel like, to get us to do more than just paper, because it was 100 years old, and just the aspect of, at least for what we want to do, it's changing, and there is going to be more video for broadcast and news and things like that. So if we wanted to continue, it was a big point for Tom to have us do it. So then it kind of just started as us just taking videos and doing them for our own little stories. I honestly felt it was more through class with Tom. It wasn't really necessarily doing it for the Promethean. And then we would just take those stories and compile them together. And then at one point we had enough where we're like, we should make a TV broadcast. So
And
I don't know, that's how I saw it happen.
is it called the Promethean broadcast, or does it have
Promethean
a different name?
TV is what
Promethean
we've called
TV.
it. I recall it being more so the same. I always knew I wanted to do something with video because I fell in love with cameras in high school, and I just kind of like playing around with it. So when I came to UWS and got into the journalism program, I was like, oh, we got a newspaper. What could we do that's more? And he just told me, well, just pick up a camera and start shooting video. And we figured it out from there.
Yeah, I'll be honest. They were definitely more on the video side of it. I liked just interviewing people and putting it on paper. But I did kind of realize that if I wanted to take it to the next step, that was something that would need to happen.
And they added multimedia journalism. It became a major and a minor. And so with that became more audio, more video, more opportunities. And we had that. We had a TV studio at school. We have a radio station. These are resources available right there on campus. So it was actually an easy startup, if you will. But it takes people with interest and talent to do that. So
Definitely.
Yep.
How can you keep the spirit of the Promethean, take that newspaper and bring it to a new dimension like this?
It's almost pretty simple because, the Promethean's really just about the campus, if you think about it. And that was one of the biggest things at every meeting we had. Tom would just be like, what do you think as a student, what would you want to hear about? Because that's really all it was. It's like, what did we want to hear about? What did we want to read about? Obviously, there's stories that you have to cover, like the president coming to campus. But a lot of it is just, giving answers to questions students may have. So then I think we were able to just keep the vibe of the Promethean kind of alive just through the video because it was the same stories. We were just adding more coverage to it, if that made sense. So that made it a lot easier. And then, as Tom mentioned, it was my senior project to create. It was the first time we had Promethean TV, and that was just taking the stories and just finding a way to build them. And I really think that helps with the production side of TV broadcasting that I never knew about, and still to this day feel like I'm low end compared to like Drew's morning producer here and everything. But
Tech director.
Yeah, tech director. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, it was just like learning that aspect of it and like putting it together to like, obviously we would start with the news, and it helps keep that vibe of the paper because you're really just telling it in a certain way that is showcasing the campus, I guess, if that makes sense.
So you feel like you've kept that spirit alive, what they started back in 1920. It's the same spirit of the paper.
Yeah, I think so, because it's about the campus, it's about the students. And if you have students doing it and going out on campus, then you're going to be able to keep that alive.
Drew actually restarted the YouTube channel. So
You have
Drew,
a YouTube channel?
Yes, we do.
The Promethean has a YouTube channel, and that's where the TV newscasts and the podcasts live. And so for years after they're done, they could go back, or if people wanted to check it out. So that's talking about the next level. And Drew can tell you more about that.
Yeah, and that was actually by luck of the draw. So, I mean, I don't know how much I want to say some of these things for being on the knowing all like our passwords and stuff, but having everything that we had for like our social medias and that, I was like looking through on YouTube one day. I was like, I wonder if we have an old YouTube channel that's just floating somewhere. And so I typed in the Promethean, nothing popped up, but I typed in the Stinger. And back when it was like late 2000s, early 2010s, they had a few YouTube, just like smaller, like little broadcast that they just did around campus that I saw. And I was like, I wonder if I could cover that account. Well, when I found out that we also had a Stinger Gmail account as well, I was like, all right, well, can I crack the password by taking a wild guess? And who knew I would get on the first try because we've kept the same passwords for everything.
Oh, you may want to change them after this podcast.
Yeah,
You might want
I
to,
think so.
Tom. But yeah, then after that, I was just able to just kind of fix up some branding. Since I've been doing and laying out the newspapers my entire time, it was really easy to hop on InDesign and Photoshop to move stuff around. I felt like those skills were very transferable for anything I do now because I'm always using those tools outside of class in college. But yeah, everything just kind of fell into place and we were just like, all right, we got a home for our broadcast because, I mean, couldn't put on our website because that would bog up too much of our cloud that we had.
Okay.
Because our website and our articles and photos, they only take like small megabytes,
Right.
but the videos take full on gigabytes. And I think we only had 200 gigabytes for the whole website. We don't want to bog that up quick. But it's nice having it on YouTube because now you could link it into the website. So it kind of gives us traffic on both sides.
Right.
And on the flip side, it makes us not bog up what we could put on our website.
Exactly. Do you still focus on the newspaper? And this is a question we get in journalism all the time. Will newspapers go away someday?
I hope not. I don't think so. I'd be really sad if they do.
There's always stories to tell, Maria, and especially on campus and in Superior, as you all know, on this podcast. Some great history. It will change. It'll continue to change. I mean, technology will continue to change. But I'm with Drew. I'm hoping there'll still be a print version somehow, some way. That's my goal, is to keep it going. I keep telling, I shouldn't say joking, I want to get it to 200 years. I said, I won't be around at 200 years, but we wanted to get it over the hump at 100 years and on that trajectory towards 200 years. So yeah, hopefully it in some form, right? But technology is going to continue to change.
On top of that, it's just newspapers are also evolving. I mean, you guys are doing podcasts now. You guys also do some video. And I see other newspapers that do that. But then again, when I go back to like my home area, I don't really see that as much, but I still see the same group of people getting the paper on the weekly. So I think that it's going to stay around for a long time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Were both of you communications majors or journalism majors?
Yeah, I actually think mine's kind of a funny story. So obviously I left Eau Claire and then I literally went through one by one every single major and minor that UWS had to offer. You know, crossed off science first, everything that had to do with science. And then I kind of got to the point, I don't remember what the other one was, but it was communications is something else. And I was just like, you know, I can talk to people and you can figure something out with it. I believe that, like Tom said, multimedia journalism wasn't even offered.
Major.
Yeah, it wasn't even offered at the time. So I spent a year and a half just doing communications classes, just broad, and then doing a little bit of the Promethean stuff on the side. I didn't think it was going to be what I was doing. And then obviously a year and a half in, I just worked with Tom so much that he told me, hey, we're bringing back the major and the minor. Obviously, I wasn't going to double major because I was already like 3 years into school. But I was like, yeah, I can take it on as a minor. And so then I was a comm major, multimedia journalism minor is what I think I graduated with.
And then I had something similar, like Jeffrey, I thought I wanted to go into teaching, but I don't know, that summer I was up here before school actually started. I was like, I don't think I could be a teacher. I don't think I could cut it out to be one. Kids annoy me. So I also went through everything that they had, and I always wanted to do something creative and something fun. And when it came down to it, I wanted to do something with cameras. And the only things I saw in the apartment that allowed me to do both was multimedia journalism, which thankfully that was there when I started. I think I was the first batch of students that actually got enrolled in that.
Okay.
And then I also found digital filmmaking. So I actually double majored in multimedia journalism and digital filmmaking.
Now, you don't have to be a journalism major to be part of the Promethean, right?
Correct. Yep. You
Yes.
can volunteer and be any major as long as you're a student. Yep.
But the skills that they learn. I mean, if you look at the old Prometheans, have you seen any names that look familiar to you that are in journalism today?
Yeah.
I mean, how many? Can you name a couple?
Well, you had a few stories in there.
Her colleague, Shelley Nelson, I believe, was.
Yep, Shelley Nelson was in it. But it just seems like there are a lot of names that had Promethean bylines that are now in journalism.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
I mean,
fair to say?
I was so excited yesterday. Obviously, I watched. I still work. Actually, Jeffrey and I call basketball games together. And so nice to call him a colleague. But he had a feature just last night or the night before that was on TV Drew's old station, Fox 21, that Isaiah's currently at, Xavier had a feature story. So on the same night, we had 2 UWS grads doing full-length feature stories on the same night, different stories. And so that's what the whole multimedia journalism program was about. So Drew has been at a couple of stations now, Jeffrey, Xavier, some other staffers have gone behind the scenes and worked behind the scenes. And so it's very rewarding for me to see them move on. And actually, one of the reporters, Jess, was working at the Duluth News Tribune for a while, for a summer, I believe. Jess Walbillig.
Cloquet Pen
Yeah,
Journal.
it was
Part of the Duluth newspaper family. Yeah. So, and she was a writing major.
Okay.
And she worked with the Promethean and, went into the newspaper side of things for a while.
I'd like to also mention, Tom mentioned the behind the scenes people. Adam Demuth, he only had his name maybe in 2 or 3 bylines, but he was a big time copy editor for us and did a lot of stuff with the radio when he was in school at the same time as me. And he actually started at Northern News Now a month after I did. So he's like my main evening photog. I'd say we work together like probably 2 days out of the week for work, just going on shoots with him. So it's not just the people that obviously get their bylines and stories later. It's the people that are behind the scenes too. And, I would say he didn't necessarily work with a camera much when he was with the Promethean and stuff, but I think he learned a lot about the news aspect of it because he's so talented with editing and photo stuff that he didn't necessarily need to train in that versus seeing what
digital filmmaking.
Yeah, just seeing what the news was.
Have any of you dived back into old issues of the Peptimist or the Promethean? I know recently there was a 100-year celebration. Did you look back much at those old papers and what did you pull from that? What did you find?
Actually, so this little pull-out column we had of student government, that was something that was in the older versions of the Peptimist, I think in the 40s, probably. It wasn't as styled as it is, but it was just like a whole line where they just basically went through bullet points of what did the Student Government Association talk. So that's something that we brought back more recently. And then other things that we brought back were archived issues. They started doing some archived issues in the latter half of the 20th century. And we ended up doing some of those. And it's been fun to go back through. I've done a few archives myself. I don't know if Jeffrey's ever done them.
I was going to say, honestly, I didn't dive much into the history. The most that I would get is Tom's weekly trivia, which he would mostly base off the Promethean. My favorite fun fact is the Giants coming to UWS to practice. So I just want to give a shameless plug to that. But other than that, I honestly wasn't much of the history buff. These two, definitely. And Ryan Marcianic, who was with us at the time and now helps with IFAN, was a big one for the archives.
Yeah.
And Gene Germano, we have to give a shout out to Gene. Gene, we would do an archive page and Gene would go back into the archives and actually produce a page based on the 100 years of stories or photos or things like that. So Gene Germano did a fantastic job with that.
He told me that if you find a nice theme, you could figure out how to make everything just cohesive and flow to it, depending on subject matter and each article. Or he said that pictures are also just a great way to get people's attention. So if you find a lot of pictures of one place, you could show it over the time. And those are just some really nice things that he's taught me that I was able to do some archives with. I think I did a Snow Week one and Doug Sutherland.
Oh, yeah. Doug Sutherland.
Yeah. I didn't realize at the time how big of a name he was because I'm really illiterate in sports. But also, I didn't know we had an old yearbook at our campus, the Gitchie Gumi.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed. And I found a lot of stuff on Doug Sutherland in the Gitchie Gumi. And that was most of what I based on my archives was his life at school.
Those old yearbooks are really important markers for history of the campus.
Yeah, I found it really fascinating and really interesting just seeing how the campus has changed over the 100 and some years it's been around. Like right where the giant courtyard is right now, where it's just peeled grass, used to be some sort of gymnasium and student center. And where Holden Fine Arts sits now used to be a line of houses. Same with Jim Dan Hill Library. And it's just stuff like that where it's like, I didn't really expect to see my campus really change the community around it, both physically and just communally.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially when you think of just, coming from the sports side of they used to have a football team and then there was no football team and now they have a new stadium there. So all of that's documented in the Promethean. So, I mean, that's just one example of a very obvious one, but it's very important, I think, just because those are the stories we may remember, obviously, but there's so many other stories that were in that issue that if we were to go back and look, like you learn so much about the campus and just how it used to interact. And I think it was cool. There was one day where we had, after the COM Awards ceremony, Tom brought out like a 1990s or something broadcast.
That was on VHS?
Yeah, that was on VHS. So it was like, even seeing that, like they did try video one time. Like we weren't the first ones to do that. So I think that was really cool to be like, okay, like there is always something to talk about, I guess.
And I remember when that happened, because I think we were having the conversation of, oh, well, if they could do it while pasting tapes together somewhere in that building, we could do it when everything's on a laptop now.
Yeah. And then Tom was like, there's your senior project, Jeff. And I was like, shoot.
Awesome.
And one note is we have a new archivist on campus, and he has now archived everything up to 2024. So
And those are free to the community. Anyone can go and take a look through that.
On the Jim Daniel Library. You can just do it you don't even have to go there. You can just look it up online.
Right.
Yeah.
When you stepped in 2016, how was the Promethean doing, and what were your hopes for it?
Just to keep the tradition going of all those years, of all those voices, of all those stories. Maria, you know as well as I've been in this town now for 40 years. There's a lot of stories to tell in Superior. And not just on the UWS campus, but in the Superior community, Douglas County, northwestern Wisconsin. And so I just thought if I could guide the students, it's their newspaper. The content is all there. So the stories they come up with, the photos, that's all theirs. But my goal was just to keep it going, was just to get more interest in the Promethean. And eventually now, what I really take satisfaction is these are skills they're learning to get jobs, full-time jobs. Both of these are examples of taking their skills they learned at the Promethean, at school, at UWS, and filling a workforce need in our community. That's just a bonus for me. But I get goosebumps, literally. I know you can't see it, but I get goosebumps just talking about how hard these students worked behind the scenes, because you don't see the production side of a newspaper. You see the final product of it. But these two spent countless hours, days, weeks, months putting their hard work together. And to see them then succeed into a career, and what these two have said over the course of the last 25, 30 minutes is very rewarding for me. And I have tears and I have goosebumps because I'm so thrilled to see their progress.
Right.
That's what I get out of it, is to see their progress.
And this is 105 years of that newspaper
Correct.
Giving people those skills.
Correct.
Yeah.
And recently you received some awards for the work that these students are doing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to start out with, it wasn't me. They're all the students, all the student awards. I did enter the award. So yeah, I will take some credit in that part. And we paid the fee for that. But I was hoping that they would be recognized for their hard work. And this group was.
And that was through the Wisconsin Newspaper Association.
Yep, through the foundation. They earned 7 different reporting awards. Drew himself won a couple of those. The group won a total of 7, 2 first place awards, 5 either second place or honorable mention awards, as Jeffrey mentioned, for sports or for mental health coverage. They did a lot of stories last fall on that, political affairs reporting, things like that. And then also they earned, I should say, at the end of the year, so it was the whole year, the University Community Award for reaching out and covering the entire campus. So that was an award, campus award from student involvement. So we have over 50 student organizations on campus. And so that's the best part. Students can find a way that they can get involved. And the Promethean was honored for telling those stories, the university stories. So University Community Award they got. So
wonderful.
The Wisconsin Newspaper Association was, I thought maybe for the use of multimedia, they would be contenders for one. And then when I saw the results, again, I had goosebumps and tears in front of my family that I'll never forget, because that was very rewarding that these students and those that came with them and worked with them and the current staff were rewarded for their hard work. So
you've changed a lot over the years. What's next?
Well, for the Promethean, it's in the hands of the students that are still enrolled. But when it comes to Jeffrey and I can't speak for Jeffrey, but I know we both had full-on careers already in journalism up here in the Northland. And I've had a lot of fun already doing every position imaginable except for anchoring at the Fox station in town, from production assistant, weekend reporting, producing, tech directing, and then assignment desk, to now where I could pick something that I really enjoy and just kind of take that and see where it takes me now at WDIO with morning tech directing job. And
Yeah, I would say, kind of just like the stories that we cover, you never know where it's really going to go. So you may not know what's next, but I know that for the Promethean, it will continue to breed journalists to come out and work hard wherever they may end up. If they end up local, that's awesome. Love local journalism. So Tom would be best to answer for what's next, but I think that's what it'll do. It'll continue to just be there for students and for the campus to inform them of what's going on. But then also, it's really just a vehicle to help you move into the next step of your life.
These two have been great coming back to class and telling their stories. And that's been wonderful that current students can see, the hard work and efforts, and they can tell their stories other than Tom's stories from being in a newsroom to hear different voices. So I look forward to actually having more of those voices in the classroom to come. I'm sure someday they'll make a huge donation to the Promethean fund that, we can name something in their honor, but I'm kidding because I know. But my goal is just to continue to tell those stories on campus in Superior and Douglas County. There's a lot of stories to tell, and hopefully we can just continue doing what we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you, Drew.
No problem.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Of course.
And thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Maria.
And thank you for listening to Archive Dive. New episodes are available monthly at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a topic you'd like us to explore, email me at mlockwood@superiortelegram.com.